So I'm just going to put a little bit of this brake grease around this. Maybe a mistake, and just to help maybe make a pretty good seal. And then I'm gonna go ahead, so I'll show you right now. I just had an extra screw container left over. You can use a big Gatorade bottle or something like that. This will be perfect though. It'd be good and already dry. So I got a 3/8 hole here, and I got a little vent hole there. My hose, I'm gonna put this hose down in here so it fits good and tight, so I know it won't come out. And so I'm going to, sun's out, I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm gonna push this hose down. I'm gonna put me a level of fluid in here, say, about maybe right there, maybe the bottom of that label. And just so that hose is submerged in fluid, and that way if it needs to suck anything back, it'll suck up fluid, not air. Granted, I guess there'll be some air in the tube until it pushes it down, but we're going to do that. So I'm just going to put a little bit of this brake grease around this. Maybe a mistake, and just to help maybe make a pretty good seal. And then I'm gonna go ahead, so I'll show you right now. I just had an extra screw container left over. You can use a big Gatorade bottle or something like that. This will be perfect though. It'd be good and already dry. So I got a 3/8 hole here, and I got a little vent hole there. My hose, I'm gonna put this hose down in here so it fits good and tight, so I know it won't come out. And so I'm going to, sun's out, I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm gonna push this hose down. I'm gonna put me a level of fluid in here, say, about maybe right there, maybe the bottom of that label. And just so that hose is submerged in fluid, and that way if it needs to suck anything back, it'll suck up fluid, not air. Granted, I guess there'll be some air in the tube until it pushes it down, but we're going to do that. So this is what I got set up here. I made sure to cut this tube off good and flush with the razor blade, the way it seats against that nut real well. I got my zip tie on there going around that tube, and so you can see it's on there pretty good. And I went ahead and had an extra scrap piece of stainless steel bolt to kind of help weigh this thing down, and it still wants to, well, it was before I put liquid in it. It's doing good now, but you just want to make sure this thing stays good and level so that tube stays down in the fluid. So I went ahead and put a heavy wrench on there. I'd recommend maybe getting 2 foot of hose, 3 foot of hose. This is 2 foot, and really it's kind of barely enough. Ideally I would want that loop to go a little bit higher, but so this is sitting pretty low to the ground, and 2 foot is just right, maybe a little bit short. Get 3 foot just to be on the safe side. So you can see our fluid is kind of dirty in there. There's the level. So we're going to go ahead and top this off. Or it's pretty well topped off. We're going to add a little more to it, and just because you do not want to run this dry. That would defeat the whole purpose. You'll suck air through this reservoir, and you'll have to be priming more. So we're going to pump. I think I watched another guy on YouTube, and I think he had done like 10 pumps. So we'll do like 10 or 15 pumps of the brakes, and we'll check the level and kind of give you guys an idea how long. This is going to be the longest run, so it's going to take the longest. So I'll give you an idea how many pumps it takes. Just open the bleeder valve and the fluid kind of come out. I got a couple air bubbles there come out with it, so that's positive. And you can kind of see here, hang on a minute, you can kind of see the bubbles, see it bubbling up. That's what you want to see. You want to see the air pushing through. And so I'm gonna go in there. My wife's not back yet, but I'm gonna go in there and pump it 10 times and come back here and check on it. But ideally we want all this dirty fluid, we want to see clean fluid coming out of here, and that's the purpose. See how dirty that is, and then see how clean that is. So that's what we're looking for. So this is after 10 pumps. We still got dirty fluid. All the air is out of the tube. That's good. Our tube is still in the liquid, I see. No, nothing's leaking up here. That's good. And I'll show you under the hood. We did use a significant amount of fluid out of those 10 pumps. You can see the fluid level is, I filled it up to max, so the fluid level is here. So I would suggest every 10 pumps, get out and fill your reservoir back up, because you do not want this thing to go below minimum. And so we're going to go ahead and fill that up every 10 pumps. So that's 10 pumps. The fluid's still pretty dirty. That's just, my bad, 20 pumps. Still dirty fluid, no leaks. There's a lot of dirty fluid in here. Our hose is still good. Check on our reservoir. The reservoir went down significantly again. My bad. And so we're going to fill it back up. So I would suggest every 10 pumps to be safe. And we're going to do 10 more pumps. So it's still pretty dark. It's getting a little clear. That's 30 pumps. Got some pretty dark fluid down there. So let's fill up our reservoir and do 10 more pumps. That'll be 40 pumps. And see what it looks like then. I mean, we still got some pretty dark fluid here in the reservoir, so I kind of ideally I think you're going to have to pump all this fluid out, but then again, you're mixing it when you fill it. So I got 2 bottles of fluid there, hoping that'll be enough. So I believe this is it's kind of hard to tell. I do have a little bit of bubbles there, but I believe this is the fluid in here is getting pretty clear. You can kind of see traces of that dirty fluid. It's kind of funny, but if you get down here and look, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, this top level right here, you can tell it's clear, it's clean fluid. This bottom level is dirty fluid. It's kind of hard to tell, but I can tell, and so that means I'm getting clean fluid. You can see it good there. See that line? So that top half is clean, and so we're going to stop flushing and move on to the next one. So that was 50 pumps. 50 pumps. Probably could have stopped with 40, but 50, and I started noticing this divider, and so I'm pretty sure the fluid I'm getting now is clear. And I've got a good bit of air bubbles coming through, and so I'm gonna let it, I might give it a couple more pumps, get all this air out. So I went ahead and gave it 2 more pumps. I got all the air out, and so I'm gonna go ahead and tighten this bleeder off. So it's been 52 pumps. So now we're on the driver side, rear, and you can see the fluid's looking a lot more clear. And so I think we've gotten the majority of the dirty fluid out of the reservoir. This here is after 20 pumps. There was after 10 pumps, there was some small bubbles seeping out of here. So there must have, and there comes a few more. So there could have been a fair amount of air in the system. Never had any issues out of the brakes, but and you can tell that's coming out of the drain thing there. Look here, I'm looking, you can tell it's coming out of the brake system, not around the tube there. And so I'm gonna, that's 20 pumps. I'm gonna let that bubble, and probably pump it another 10 times. So that'll be 30 pumps on this one, just to get any more air and fluid and whatnot out of there. I'm gonna let it bubble until it stops, and I'm gonna give it 10 more pumps. So just, I've done this, I'm still on the, I had to take a break, driver rear. I think this was 30 pumps. Now we're about to move to the passenger side on the front. So we're on the front right now. I keep getting these little bubbles I closed it off, make sure it's still sealed, but I'm just gonna let these things, see these little air bubbles fizzing. I'm just gonna let them bubble out, pump it once, let it fizzle, pump it twice, and I'm about 40 pumps in on this side, and I made sure my valve isn't too loose. I shouldn't be sucking air anywhere, so I must just have a little bit of air in the system. And so we're just going to continue to let it bubble until it stops bubbling. Okay, I pumped it, so this may be about 48, 50 times. The bubbles have stopped, but I went ahead, what I did, I think it may have been siphoning, I don't know. There shouldn't have been any air bubbles, but I went ahead and elevated this so that I had a loop tall, so my air goes over here. May have been what was happening is my air bubble had got back here, and I was sucking air bubble back in. It was just bleeding back out. And so I want my air bubble to be as far away, and so that I got a good bit of liquid right here. And that way, whenever you pump it, it's going to suck a little bit back. And you don't want the air bubble, I think, to be right here, because it's going to suck air about, and then you're just going to be getting residual bubbles from this last 3 inches. You know what I mean? So you want a tall, that's what I was saying earlier, you want a tall hose so your loop and your air can be further away. You have some liquid that stays right here. So I went ahead and elevated that. I think that helped, because it ain't bubbled. It's not bubbling anymore after I pumped it twice. So we're gonna close this one off and go to the driver's side. So we got the driver's side bled. So it was about, I think it was 30 pumps, give or take. And then just kind of, after about 30 pumps, I waited for all the bubbles to stop. Pumped it a couple more times, waited for all the bubbles to stop, pumped it a couple more times. Once it set for a minute or two, no bubbles, I closed the valve. And then I'm going to wait and fill up the reservoir until we get the brakes changed so we don't overflow the cylinder.